Hello, everyone. This is Socrates. I am here with Tyler Jenks of Lucid Investments, and we are here today to look at the Bitcoin weekly close. I just got back from my daily hot springs meditation session, so I'm feeling really good. I got a Montucky cold snack that I just cracked open. Now I'm feeling even a little bit better. And today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day, Tyler. How are you doing?
Oh, very good. Thank you very much, Socrates. Great to see you. I'm up in Michigan at my daughter's place, celebrating Father's Day with two cats, two dogs, my daughter, my son-in-law, his parents, and his sister came over. We've been fishing all day, catching some largemouth bass right off the back porch, really. And my wife made a fabulous, my favorite meal in the world, spaghetti and meatballs, and hers are about the best I've ever had. So it's been a great day. We did want to not really interrupt everybody's holiday or Sunday, but pretty interesting uh, last 24 hours in Bitcoin. And the fact that we're closing the week out as we speak uh, is very interesting. So I'm going to let Socrates start it off. We might look at a couple of others. We're going to try to keep this to about 30 minutes so everybody can get back to what they were doing. But thank you all for listening. And I think you'll find this a very interesting segment.
All right. I will be throwing my screen share on right now. So 1 second. And be taking a look at the Bitcoin chart, and certainly a very timely time to be looking at it, not only because the weekly just closed, but also because where the price sits right now. This thing is right. Basically, I talked to Tyler a few hours ago. The price was pulled back to around 88, and he asked me what I thought. And I said, man, this thing really is starting to worry me a little bit. It needs to turn around like right here, right now. And that's because this is a horizontal area of support, as well as a potential area of trend support. Let's see, we could get a bit of a pitchfork drawn. I'm just going to do it with 3 trend lines. Let's see, something like this. Okay. And let's see what we got here, something like this. So this looks a little bit messy, but this is kind of where I was looking at, as this line right here is definitely, it has some importance to it. We see the price dancing around it at bottom tier. It's kind of the medium of this parallel channel, which have been keeping my eye on. It's not drawn as nicely as I'd want right now, but there you basically have it. So I was looking at this trend line right here and this area of horizontal support right here. And we were pulling back. I was thinking that this could be a really good buying opportunity if I wasn't already fully entered into the long exposure. This as an area to buy a pullback. When you break through what was resistance, you want to see that become support. And that can represent good areas to enter or add. So when you already are kind of fully entered and you didn't take any profit, my profit target was 96. If you remember on Saturday, I mentioned that if we could break through this area, like I think 88 to 89, then my target was going to be 96. So that's where I was looking at taking some profit. I didn't do that. Now we're getting this pullback. So instead of thinking about buying, I'm kind of starting to worry, like, holy cow, did I miss my exit? Is this thing just kind of a trap? Basically, when it breaks through, when it looks like it breaks through a boundary, an area of resistance, and then it's unable to support a throwback when the price quickly retraces back down below that area and spends some time back below, that is what is classically known as a bull trap. And that's what I was worrying about, and now I'm feeling a little bit better because this candle had a strong close. When this was a full-bodied red candle, you see this wick here was the open picture. When it was full-bodied red like this, it's getting hairy, and I'm looking at basically the last level of resort at 87 and thinking 87 to 89, anywhere in there represented good risk reward on a potential entry, but I didn't want anything to do with it because I missed my area to trim. If this would have gone up to 96 and I would have, say, taken 33 to maybe 50% profit, then I might be thinking about re-entering on a pullback. As it stands, I'm more just kind of sitting here feeling a little bit anxious, wondering if I need to start covering, and if so, at what point. So I was watching very, very closely and was saying to Tyler that this thing really needs to find support like here and now, and it needs to stay above the 88 was really the number that I had, I think, when we were talking. So if it can hold above this 89 area, then it will be in a good shape for continuation. Now, the title of this episode is the weekly close. So let's go ahead and take a look at the weekly candle. Okay. And I am going to be looking at, I wish I had a bit of a cleaner chart. So let's take a look at another exchange. 1 second. Pull up Gemini. Okay, and this illustrates my area where I was wanting to take profit. Came up just short. That can be frustrating there, especially when you're sitting on some unrealized profit that you're wanting to take off of the table. So let's get everything off of here and just look at the candle and see. And that's another reason why this that what I was just showing you was very important. Why I was saying we need to really respond right here and now was because we were coming up to the weekly close, and we see how we did close at 89.91, which is very strong as far as I'm concerned. I really wanted to see us close above this. That would be super strong and really indicate continuation in my mind. But getting the highest close that we've gotten really in this whole run, but specifically in the last 4 weeks, is what is most important to me. And just think about as we were looking at these 4-hour candles kind of coming down towards support. So right here, this last 4 hours was leading up to the weekly close. Weekly just closed 6 minutes ago. We're 6 minutes into this 4-hour candle here. So imagine if this candle turned out to be something like this candle. Easily could have happened. Anything can happen. It could have been much more severe. But if it's something like this thing gave up about $300 in value. So that would take us down to 86.23 or so. If we got another one of those in this hour where I said I'm starting to get worried, we really need to respond here and now. If we didn't and we got another one of these candles, that would have closed us at about 86 or so. And just take a look at what a difference that would be on this chart. If instead of getting the highest close in 4 weeks, we close down below this area of resistance. This is definitely an area of resistance. Anytime you see weekly candles where closes and opens are lining up, that is an area of resistance or support, depending on where they're lining up. Here, probably support. You see some wicks and some opens and closes. Here you see that we close here. We fail to get above it here, except on a wick. We can't close above it there, and then we react violently here. So that's a clear area of resistance. If we didn't respond in the last 4 hours, and we closed down here, we'd have this nasty wick, and we would close below resistance, which likely, in my mind, would have led to follow through to the downside. Instead, we had a strong response from testing this 8,800 area. Support held strong, and not only did we rebound up to the open, but we even tested back up to 9,000 and closed very close to it. And now we look to be responding with a nice little low between two higher lows. So that 4-hour candle right there does not really look like much unless you're really paying close attention to what's going on multiple time frames. And to me, that candle means all in the world. That was just very important for me, and that's because I really wanted to see us close above this area of horizontal resistance, and I wanted to see us start to eat away at this wick. And now that we've done that, we're starting to, and this will be a question for you, Tyler, is now, yep, it looks like we have taken out this TDST level, the setup trend line at 88.97. So not only did we close above this area of horizontal resistance, we closed above this TDST level on the TD sequential, and we took out this 9, which led to another green 1 opposed to a price flip. And now we've got a green 2, which would go above the green 1 at 93.90, which is getting awfully close to my area of resistance. So that's a question for you, Tyler, is what's more important, seeing this setup trend line or TDST level, or seeing this horizontal right here?
Well, I think the most important is taking out the TDST and doing it the way you just explained, because it was a stutter step and it looked like it was maybe going to pull back and was pulling back, but then reversing right into the close, I think, is very important. The overhead resistance, though, remains, and there's several points above it, which puts all of us in a very tough spot. Just the way Socrates just explained it, he's looking, for a place to get out or start trimming back around 96. I sold half of our positions at 8,800, and then it fell below that for a fairly long period of time. Now it's made it back up to 9,000, all the way up to about 9,400. I saw a lot of people on Telegram wondering if I still hold those positions, and I do. In fact, everybody on Telegram will know the minute that I'm taking profit on the last half of our 20%. I have not done that yet, mainly for the reasons that Socrates just outlined. I'm very impressed with the ability of this this asset class at this moment in time to continue to strengthen through resistance. First 7,500, then 8,500, then 9,000, and now some overhead resistance between 9,000 and 9,400. There's some Fibonacci lines depending on how you draw them, starting around 9,400 up to 9,600, and then a lot of stuff up around 10,000, 10,100, 11,100. But throughout all this, Consensio has been fully bullish and remains fully bullish. And even on these pullbacks that don't amount to much, we're on a weekly 9, and we're struggling to get any downside action. And just the opposite is happening going into the close of this week. So the drop earlier in the last couple of days has brought the short-term moving average to roll over, and I'll pull that out in just a second, but not by very much. And price cut down through it and now is rallying back above it. So other than some of the big things I've talked about, like Hyperwave, which still is active and still has 2 exit points or 2 terminal points of the Hyperwave. One is up at about 20,000, 19,666 on Bitstamp, and the other's down at 1,000. Other than that, none of the technical tools that I use speak to it. So I go to Consensio, I go to the Copic curve, which is now turned bullish. I go to the ADX, which is now turned bullish. To me, the RSI is not in an overbought position. It looks like there's upside to that. So as we sit here, just minutes after the weekly close and the daily close, I still am not interested in taking profits on our last 10% in Bitcoin. And so those of our consulting clients that have been calling and asking, that's my answer right now. I will let you know instantly when I make a decision, but I don't feel that that is needed right now. So we are hanging on to it. I don't have a specific point. Somewhere around 94 to 96 I was thinking of, but you've probably heard me on Joe Saz's show say that if we can break through the 10,000 level, originally I was thinking more like 13.5, because I think we're going to have a lot of trouble at 10,000, 10,100, 11,100, and 12,500. But just the momentum, the strength of this without any pullbacks leads me to believe that if we can get a closing price above 10,000, that I will very probably add 2 positions above 11,100, which I didn't think I would do before. Now, that's the bullish side. And right now, that's the way the charts look. It's very difficult to argue with the bullish case. Number one. Number two, it's very difficult to argue with all the overhead resistance. And number three is that if we are not able to continue this, and we're only talking about the last 15 to 30 minutes, 45 minutes at the most, where we've gotten this little pop back up, that could evaporate in a very short period of time. We could see ourselves back down below 8,800 and 8,600. And then it all starts again. You know, then we've got to hold 8,500, then we've got to hold 7,500, and it can really happen that quickly. So the question is, at what point would I want to sell our remaining 10% of X? We started with 20X at approximately 6,500 as an average price. We got out of half of that at 8,800. I would hate to get out of the rest of it at less than 8,800. I'd much rather, obviously, get out of it somewhere between 9,000 and 9,600 or 9,800. But what I want and what I'm going to get, I'm in the same dilemma that Socrates is in. I've got this now. What do I do with it? If it starts getting stronger from here, I want to add. I don't want to get out of it. And I think, you know, I've missed an opportunity to add more well above the 6,500 mark. I still think it's a very reasonable probability that we still need a real pullback. Hyejin Lee has done a very interesting study of the run up, the size of the pullbacks during that run up, and there were 5 of them that were basically 25 to 40%. We haven't had a single one. On this run up, we haven't had a single pullback of 25 to 40%. We had 5 of them in 2017 on that run up. So we're overdue, and it's confounding a lot of really smart analysts like Tone Vays, who has been waiting and waiting and waiting for the pullback, as have I and a number of other people. And Socrates has been looking for a pullback too, but he's been spot on in terms of this movement from the low 8,000 up to our current position, using a lot of very unique tools, and is hitting on all cylinders, but still is looking for a pullback at some point. So what my message is this is a lot more bullish over 9,000 than it has been between 6,500 and 8,500. A lot more bullish now. And a lot of people think that's nonsense, that it's always bullish, more bullish at a lower price. All the people that are saying, yeah, you should have bought at 3,000. And my view is not at all. 6,000 to 6,800 was the perfect entry point, because the risk was so small above the 6,000 level, where the risk was much, much greater at the 3,000 level, than twice that level. Well, now we're playing around the 9,000 level, and if it can hold above 8,800 to 9,000, get back up in that 9,000 to 9,400 area, the way Socrates showed, we had a pullback, and you'd expect that, but you don't want that pullback to go very far on this short-term move, because that could turn into something much bigger to the downside. So it's too early to draw any conclusions here, other than I am not selling at this level. I still believe we're going to get a chance to sell at a higher level, but the question is, how do we get to that higher level, and how do we deal with the overhead resistance over the next $1,000? And there's no way to tell. You have to sit back and watch it, and just be prepared, short, intermediate, and long term, to make your decisions. So with all of that, I am, if you don't mind, going to pull up just one real quick chart, the same one I always use.
Just a quick question for you before we do that.
Yeah.
When you draw your Fibonacci's, do you use closes or wicks?
I use wicks from either a top or a bottom to look at what the extensions look like. And but the only thing that matters to me in terms of trading them is closes, not wicks above or below a Fibonacci line.
That makes perfect sense. I'm glad that you said that, and I'm hopping off a screen share. I see how you stopped the broadcast that one day. That stop sign sitting right out at you when you're sharing the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let me just see here what we've got. I'll pull this down, bring this guy up. And can you see that guy okay?
I can see that guy okay.
Okay, so this is my weekly, this is the daily Bitcoin chart on my large chart that has all of my parallel channels and parallel lines in the phase 2, old phase 2 of the Hyperwave line. And I think it's pretty important that the stop and reverses were taken out here at the green 3. So we've got 3 supportive on the daily be underneath us. And then on the moving averages on a daily basis, let me just take the price off for a second. You can see the amazing strength of all 3 of them, and the long term is below the intermediate term. They crossed on the 3, and the short term has gone shooting up. So fully bullish on a daily basis using Consensio, which simply means you're in a bull market. In this case, I'm still interpreting this as an intermediate term bull market. And this is the weekly. The weekly is even better from a long-term point of view, mainly because of this pullback of the short term after and on the 9 quickly reversing to new highs as prices went up. Not even coming back to the intermediate term, which is going up at about a 70-degree angle at this point. And now we've got a full 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of the long-term 30-week moving average moving up. All of that is very bullish in terms of the way I look at things. And what I'd like to do now is just pull this guy up, which is the stop and reverse points. And I know this is kind of hard to see. There's probably a way to make these dots bigger. But anyway, here's the last stop and reverse point, which comes in all the way down at 77.80. So in no way is it worrisome. And I'll put the price back on now so you can see what I mean. Last week, we came right down to the stop and reverse point, but did not break it. We talked about that at the end of last week. Now, because of the price action, we're well above it, out of the danger zone. And I do consider it a danger zone when a big long run of stop and reverse points beneath the price is pierced. And we came very close, and now we don't have to worry about that for a while. It's now up at almost 7,800, but we're obviously well above that price. So these are the two lines that to me are kind of the drop dead lines. They've been on this chart going all the way back to the beginning of 2018. And I've kept them there, and they have had no problem up until this price action. Now we're getting set after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks playing above and below the old phase 2 line, which I'm just now calling an angular trend line. And notice what the green 2 is doing. It is so far above this line, which is down at 8,200. We've got almost $900 separating the two. None of these other weeklies did that. Every one of these in the past 5 weeks was both above and below that line. This one is starting out. Now, unfortunately, we've only been at it for 26 minutes, and we've got 7 more days to go. But what I'm saying is keep your eye on this line because it does a number of things. Take a look at the intermediate term moving average on the weekly basis. It is just now crossing that line. So that is going to provide support if we get a pullback of $1,000 or so, $900. You now have the old phase 2 line, and you've got the intermediate line, and right below that, $250 below it, and coming up at a fairly quick rate is the stop and reverse point, which, just like it did last week, will be supportive. So the reason I am sounding more bullish than I have in 5 weeks is all of those factors on a weekly basis. On the much shorter time frames that Socrates has been looking at and has been calling the movement so well, so precisely, I see the same things that he is seeing, but for a number of other reasons. Now, this is the 4-hour chart, and this is what I meant about the short-term moving average coming down with this red 2. We had a red 2 that came very close to closing below a red 1, and pulling the short term down, cutting through the intermediate term. And this could have been very problematic 4 hours ago. But I agree completely with Socrates in that the fact that as we started this off 30 minutes ago, it reaffirmed not only this green one fighting to stay green, but back above the intermediate, above the short, and look what the short term's doing. It's quickly cutting to the upside. So literally by tomorrow morning, this could be in a full bullish posture. Once again, you see it turn green. Turn red. It was just green a second ago. And that's because it's so close in what it's trying to do. So I can see why Socrates is as nervous as he is on the short-term stuff, but I just wanted to point out that I am a lot less nervous as we go out to longer time frames. I like what I'm seeing. I am more and more confident that I'm going to be able to exit the last part of our trade at considerably higher prices than we are right now. But if they go too much higher, meaning through the 94, through the 96, through up to the 10,100, depending on how it does it, I will very probably be considering adding 2 positions, not selling positions off. So I'm talking not only to our YouTube followers, but to many of our consulting clients without directly talking to each one of them separately, just giving you a sense of what I see as we go into 30 minutes after the close of the week. Anything on any of these charts you want to talk about?
Nope, that I think pretty much covers what I wanted to look at on Bitcoin.
Okay, great. I'm going to get off of this, and if you'd like to take a look at Litecoin, anything interesting going on? I really haven't been watching it for the last 24 hours.
Yeah, there are a couple interesting things going on, so I will go on to screen share and show you what I'm seeing. So originally we were looking at Litecoin being a bit of a leading indicator, and sometimes when that happens and it leads the market in the next direction up, well, then it's going to kind of have to cool down while the others then catch up. And that is potentially what we've been seeing out of Litecoin. Let's take a look at the Litecoin versus Bitcoin pair specifically now. And what we're looking at is something that's very intriguing to me. I have been using this trend line to go ahead and look for a major area of support, and was also looking at entering in right around here. We were below the 50 but above the 200 exponential moving average on the 4-hour chart, seeing this low and then some higher lows beside it was quite intriguing to me. Was using some lower time frames to time entries to go ahead and add into my exposure. I am really expecting this trend line to hold up. We see Litecoin taking off in a big way and then pulling back in a big way. And the reason why I'm expecting this to continue on its leg up is due to the upcoming halving, which is scheduled for August. And I am remaining very bullish on Litecoin leading up to that. I very much believe it is a bit of a buy the hype, sell the news type of situation. Where if you're waiting until the halving occurs, you're probably going to miss out on where the markup already actually occurred. So seeing right here was leading up to the last halving in 2015, and we notice how this just shot up exponentially in a big way in only 3 weeks or so, leading up to having occurred right in here. So I sent out a tweet recently with the exact date. I think it was right about in here. So about 6 weeks before the halving, we see this thing just shoot up in a huge way, goes from 0.0058 to 0.032, almost 1,000% increase, call it like something 700% or so in the matter of 2 months, we'll say. So that's what I've been keeping a close eye on, is the price action leading up to the halving, which is scheduled for sometime in August. We'll call it right around here. We're about time where I'm really wanting to see a significant move. So as I have mentioned before, the Litecoin halved before Bitcoin halved, and it had a big run up leading into its halving, and then had a big sell off leading up to Bitcoin's halving and following it. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here is before, while we have Litecoin going through a halving before Bitcoin, its supply is going to be very much what is determining this ratio here, because it will have a smaller supply than Bitcoin for that few months, and it would be justified for the exchange rate to be up in this area for those few months. So that's what I'm wanting to see. Is I've got a target of 0.03, and that's mainly based on how high it got leading into the last halving, just based on the Bitcoin ratio, and then also seeing this higher high right here. If we continue up in a big way from here in only a couple of weeks, like about a month or so, kind of like we saw last time, then we would be right here at this area of resistance, and would be right in the range where it got to last time in the mania leading up to the halving. So that's a target that I have been looking at very closely and betting heavily on. And this was an area where I wanted to go ahead and add to that. Seeing a big sell-off in a bull market is something that I am wanting to pay very close attention to. And what else do we kind of see? I'm sure jumping out to a lot of people, and that's this enormous cup and handle. So let's take a look at what we've got here. We're going to just go ahead and draw this very quickly, something like this, and then something like this. This would be the next potential area to enter as far as I am concerned, if I'm not already fully entered by that point. If we can break through 0.185 is my major area of resistance, which represents the boundary of this cup and handle. And then if we go ahead and measure the move, you saw I measure from the bottom of the base to the top of the brim, and then we're going to have to zoom out to see where does that take us. Very interesting, 0.03. So a lot of things indicating this target. We've got a trend line, we've got the prior run up, and we've got this cup and handle target, all indicating something up in here. So that's something I really like seeing, is multiple indicators lining up and painting the same picture. So taking a look at Litecoin, and we see that it did kind of lead the way, like we were wondering if it might, and it led the way through that resistance right here. We had that trend resistance. It broke through and continued to support above this 50. Look at this beautiful support that we see it acting as. And now it has been consolidating for a little while and coming back towards trend support. So right here is an area where I am interested in both Litecoin USD and Litecoin versus Bitcoin. Taking a look at this beautiful cupping pattern that we see here. I don't know if I've ever seen anything that just pronounced and gorgeous, and makes me wonder if perhaps we will get a huge sort of cup and handle in Litecoin. And something that I want to point out is how it's above its major area of built up resistance. This is based on the volume profile, which shows volume at price. This shows where is the volume been. If all the volume is above, then it's resistance. If all the volume is below, then it's support. So we can see how something like this would make a lot of sense based on the cup and handle pattern, as well as the volume profile coming down to retest that for support and building back up off of it. So that's what I'm looking at on Litecoin. Real quickly, just show you Ethereum. It is also in a very interesting spot. We basically recently had this golden cross with the 50 and the 200 EMAs. We've got what's looking like a pretty lovely bullish flag. I made a tweet about this yesterday, showing a way to help to see if a pattern has been confirmed. So I had it drawn basically like this, and the question was yesterday, did it confirm right here? Like where should we be drawing this? I mean, we could say it confirmed easily, but if we want to be conservative, then it looks like it barely closed below, or maybe it just kind of closed on it. So in that case, what do? You're waiting for a pattern to confirm. You're being disciplined, but you don't want it to get away from you. So this is a suggestion that I had via Twitter yesterday, was take a look at the parabolic SAR. Could be a good idea. If the parabolic SAR is still intact, then maybe this pattern has not confirmed, and it is always a good idea to check multiple exchanges, because the moral of my tweet was that yes, this had broken the parabolic SAR on this candle right here. So that's one problem with crypto that you don't see many other places, is the indicators will often be showing significantly different signs based on the volatility being different on different exchanges, and for whatever reason. So here we do see that this thing looks like it kind of closed below. It's very close, but it did break through the SAR. So that was something that I thought could be potentially used as an indicator that perhaps this did confirm. So those are the coins that I have been really interested in. I think that the Litecoin is going to lead the way going into its halving, and I want to own it until then, and I'm going to be quickly ready to reverse and get back into Bitcoin or US dollar as soon as things show signals of reversal or aren't progressing in the way that I am wanting them to. So if you do decide to enter into any of these coins or charts, just realize that you need to have a very clear understanding of where is my stop loss going to be. If I'm viewing this as confirmed, then where is my stop loss? Where is my take profit going to be? Am I going to take full profit, or am I going to take partial profit and trail with the rest? Be very clear about what your trading plan is before entering. That's where most people go wrong, is they enter and or they get overexposed before they have a real valid game plan. So make sure that that isn't you. And as always, trade safely and with caution. So that's what I had. Anything to add, or should I pop off the screen share?
Yeah, you can pop off. That was terrific. A lot of very interesting and exciting things going on starting tomorrow morning. The stock market we're not going to talk about tonight. We've got a couple of days of rest from that, but we were pointing out how critical it looks at this point. Same thing with the gold market, the dollar market. It's really, this is the time to be an analyst and to don't have preconceived notions, understand what tools you know, what tools you believe other people know that you'd like to learn, and stay very close to all these assets. Don't make assumptions. Don't think you know where it's going to go. A lot of people say it's better to be lucky than smart. I've never taken that under advisement. Playing poker, that might be another thing, but not investing hard-earned money. Okay, thank you very much. Socrates, great as always. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us on this holiday weekend. And we will be vlogging again tomorrow. So, bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks,
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I'll just chime in with one last thing that I fully agree. I've never abided by the sentiment of better lucky than good or better lucky than smart. And even in poker, as somebody who has played a lot of hours of poker in my day, luck comes and it goes. So if you know what you're doing, then you will have some ups and some downs. Whereas if you're lucky, you're just going to have mostly downs and just a little bit of ups, just enough to keep you coming back. So I hope that you guys are studying to be good and smart, opposed to just getting lucky here and there. And that is what we're also thankful for Tyler, for everything that he has been bringing to us. So happy Father's Day. Get back to your family and enjoy the fishing out there.
Great. Very good. Thanks.